Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between Morrow and Jimpo here on Steps of War. We have Jimpo spawning over here as the blue Terran player. Meanwhile, we have Morrow spawning over here as the red Terran player. So this is going to be a Terran mirror match here on Steps of War. Now, Steps of War, as you guys already know, is a fairly small map. Both players, expect to see a lot of tank and Viking play in this particular matchup, as a lot of Terran players like to use tank and Vikings. Maybe perhaps one or two siege tanks, but not too many. But then again, I have not seen a lot of Terran mirror matches since the most recent, since the most recent patch. Both players putting down their supply depots relatively close to their bases in order to one, set up a more of an economic build, and secondly, it looks as though a barracks might be placed down. No, Morrow already doing some early scouting, trying to figure out exactly what the strategy is, perhaps making sure that there is no proxy barracks or anything of that nature in that base, and now going to go ahead and move on up. Back over here we have Jimpo now going to be placing down a 12 barracks relatively close to his base, as well as Morrow is putting down a 12 barracks as well. So both players, or Morrow, a little bit aware of the cheese that a lot of players like to do on Steps of War, and then yes, also Jimpo doing the same exact thing, just trying to scout out this whole entire dark area of the map, making sure that there are no proxy barracks set up anywhere, as he once again goes out and then does some scouting. So both players now scouting out, both players getting their gas about the same time. So production wise, yeah, that production overlay shows them doing exactly the same exact thing, as the refinery is now being completed for Morrow, as it has been completed for Jimpo as well. Are we going to get a tech lab first? Or no, upgrading the orbital command by both players and training a single marine. So this is a Terran mirror match in every sense of the word. Both players should perhaps getting the supply depot now. Yeah, one player, Jimpo, already getting that supply depot now, and yeah, getting another supply depot as well as this orbital command nearing completion. And let's see whether or not both players go for an early refinery. So one marine already completed, no additional tech lab being placed by Jimpo, so a little bit of a change there. So finally some changes between the two players. Morrow doing a nice move and attack in order to take down this SCV. It looks as though the SCV will be able to escape, however. So SCV now able to escape. Will that SCV be able to get, oh no, unable to get any attacks onto that SCV, and unable to really take it down. So both players sitting on a single marine, as well as both players are also now getting a factory. Yeah, both players also getting that factory as well. However, Jimpo currently, both players also running off of or will be running off of 2 gas momentarily. Morrow just put down the second refinery, so that refinery will be a little bit delayed. Tech lab now being built by Morrow, so Morrow building this tech lab close to this factory in order to be able to lift off that factory and then land it back down, perhaps to either produce siege tanks, hurry up on that siege tank. A single SCV trying to go up that ramp, however that those marines are able to shoo it away, and now we have a starport by Jimpo. So Jimpo building that starport a little bit off center, and so really Morrow does not know what the strategy is going to be. Now we have perhaps siege tech. Yeah, we have a siege tank being built, and siege tech should be researched momentarily, as we have a siege tank being built as well, and siege tech should be researched momentarily as well. So Jimpo, with that earlier gas, getting a little bit of an advantage, able to put down this earlier starport. Army-wise, both players sitting exactly even, or was exactly even. Harvester count exactly even as well. We should now keep seeing a Viking, so an early Viking in order to perhaps offer sight onto all of these ledges. Steps of War has a lot of ledges, so these ledges really make it fairly easy for a Terran player to siege up on that high ground. Morrow using that barracks as a flying unit in order to gain sight as well. However, a Viking that will be produced and will be finished momentarily should be able to push back this one particular barracks, and I do not think that Morrow is expecting such an early starport play. Production wise, we see Morrow now getting that starport down as well. That starport, however, will have a little bit of a delayed Viking, as these units now moving on out. Do we have a Viking? A Viking not shooting down this one barracks. A little bit surprised by that, as this Viking now heading off into that ground mode So the Viking heading off into the ground mode for some strange reason as these units now moving on up. No siege tech just quite yet for Morrow, no siege tech for Jimpo, as both players now going to go ahead and do a little bit of an engagement. SCVs coming off the line in order to do a little bit of fighting as well. A single Viking on that ground mode may be the deciding factor in this whole entire fight. Orbital command now being upgraded, a couple Marines now coming in as well. Siege tanks have a range of 7, so able to come in and get in a couple quick shots. And now this siege tank still without siege tech. Morrow now has siege tech on that high ground, will be able to blast away and able to shoot down that one single siege tank there. No siege tank or siege tech for Jimpo just quite yet, as these units once again gonna go ahead and siege up the siege tank, trying to shoot down that one tank, able to shoot down that tank, and now trying to focus on another. So Jimpo with a siege tank against another siege tank with 3 SCVs repairing, and now a second, a very nice siege tank micro, and pulling back one siege tank in order to get in that final shot. Both players, but Morrow sitting on with one single siege tank, and that is it. And now a Viking coming in to destroy the barracks. So that the barracks gets taken down, another barracks will need to be produced in order to build additional factories, losing some significant tech. However, Morrow does in fact have stronger, an orbital command, so he is able to mine a little bit more effectively as he has that additional mule to use. So you see the discrepancy there at 1100 minerals a minute versus 760. A Viking, very nicely done, coming in and landing on top of that siege tank as it was sieged up, and now those 2 siege tanks trying to fight back against that one siege tank. Siege tanks now heading back up the hill once again, and SCVs coming. So this is a pure mechanical battle. SCVs and Vikings and all of these units continuing to fight. That Viking trying to do a little bit of a slide in order to try to push back. More SCVs coming in, so it's going to be 3 siege tanks. 1 siege tank now sieging up, maybe able to get in a couple more hits. However, those siege tanks in non-siege mode so much stronger than the original StarCraft 1. And these siege tanks are just fairly powerful. 1 siege tank now being forced to push back and trying to perhaps take down that last orbital command. SCVs now coming off the line. SCVs also running in single file. This is going to be very difficult. SCVs trying to counter siege tanks. And wow, Morrow able to somehow narrowly escape that whole entire battle there. However, income-wise, he is definitely hurting. We have a reactor on the starport of Morrow, so the reactor will be able to double produce Vikings as soon as he can get enough minerals and enough gas. Should be producing 1 momentarily. No, not producing the double just quite yet. Orbital command now being upgraded by Jimpo. So Jimpo getting that orbital command. We now have 4 Vikings in the air. And now we have some siege tanks sieging up on these ledges in order to perhaps push back this whole entire attack. I'm going to take this pause in the game and say stay tuned for part 2 of this replay between Morrow and Jimpo here on Steps of War.